Welcome to a winning heart, you guys. Today with me I have Russell, and I'm going to let Mr. Russell take it away and share his story.
Hi, everyone. My name's Russell Van Brocklen. I'm a New York State Senate dyslexia funded researcher. And my story, the most interesting part starts when I was finishing up college in the late 90s and I wanted to know how laws are created, not some course I wanted to know. So I signed up for the New York State Assembly internship and I went there and I said, here's my neuropsychological evaluation. I have a first grade reading and writing level. And the director just looked at that and said, this is not going to work. This will not work with this internship, how it's set up. So he went to the speaker's office, they formed a committee, and they decided to move me from the legislative office building over to the Capitol in the Majority Leader's Program and Counsel's office because they had 3 administrative assistants who could help with my reading and writing, especially with my writing. And it was much better for me because that was a graduate internship, much better. So did that. For the academic portion, we had to do a major research paper. Standard accommodation for me back then was to do a very long presentation with a tough Q&A session. At the end, they recommended 15 credits of A-. Goes back to the State University Center at Buffalo, to their political science department. They reviewed the accommodations and said, we don't like this. So here's your 15 credits of F. Do you have any idea what that does to a grade point average?
Wow. That's, yeah.
Yeah. So now remember, I'm the only undergraduate who's in the Majority Leaders Program and Counsel's office. They already had a grad student there. So I'm treated like a graduate student. So I was offered a lot of really interesting jobs once I finished college. But instead of doing that, I was supposed to be a bureaucrat for the New York State government. Instead, I'm doing this. I wasn't supposed to do this. So I got so sick and tired of the discrimination that I asked my professors, the ones that I trusted, where do I go to grad school to force myself to learn to read and write so I can show other students? They said law school. So I went to law school. I went to see a dyslexic professor called Professor Warner. Second day in contracts, he calls on me. And this is where I learned later that dyslexic students, once we enter graduate school, we own the place day one. And that was critical for how I help other dyslexic students overcome the reading and writing issues. So he calls on me. What they typically do is they use the Socratic method. They would call on a student, they wouldn't know the answer, they'd ask them a few more questions, embarrass the kid, move on to the next one until you eventually assimilate it.
Yeah.
Didn't happen to me. He asked me questions, I answered. Then he asked harder questions, I answered. Then he's looking confused because he's not putting me down. And then we start getting really intense. I'm yelling at him, he's yelling at me. It goes on 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Finally, at 15 minutes, he said, Russell, you couldn't be any more correct. In the interest of time, I have to move on. I learned to read within the month. I learned to write within the next couple of years. To help other dyslexics not go through the hell I went through, I said, okay, we got these. Let's take the ideal. Let's see what we can do with the best students and the best teacher. So I focused on dyslexic students who were highly intelligent, highly motivated, juniors and seniors. And what we found out is that they were writing at the middle school level. So we took their best teacher at the Averill Park Central School District, Susan Ford, and with one class period a day for the school year, the students increased their writing to average range of entering graduate school students. Not high school, not college, entering graduate students. Cost New York State less than $900 a kid. All of them went on to college, all graduated, GPAs of 2.5 to 3.6.
I love it.
That's how I got started.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, I presume, based on that knowledge, you're an entrepreneur. You work for yourself because I can tell you work for yourself because excuse my French, you were sick and tired of the bullshit.
Yeah, I was tired of the discrimination and what when I presented this material down in New York City, uh, they asked a very interesting question. Does this work for normal kids and younger kids? And I'm like, no way. This is because then they said that I needed to adapt it. So just why this was so successful is if you look at a book called Overcoming Dyslexia, second edition from Sally Shaywitz from Yale. She's a medical doctor. The back part of the dyslexic brain has basically almost nothing going on, but the front part is about 2.5 times overactive. That deals with two things: articulation followed by word analysis. So articulation, and then I use the graduate records exam analytical writing section, analytical articulation, about the same thing. That was the breakthrough. But when I'm dealing with normal kids, I had to swap that out to word analysis followed by articulation. And what I would like to do is just kind of walk you through that process. So this is
Yeah,
something that your kids, that your listeners can apply tonight. So, do you know any dyslexic elementary school kids who are writing what appear to be randomly placed misspelled words? Do you know any of those kids at all, or not really?
I did. I did.
Okay,
I was a
okay,
preschool
okay,
teacher for 10 years, and I was in the special ed system myself for God knows 20 years. And so I did know about dyslexia.
okay. So, tell me make up a name for the kid who is writing randomly placed misspelled words. What's their made up name?
Let's say Joey.
Joey. Okay, the first thing we need to do is find out what Joey's speciality is, his area of extreme interest and ability. So, for Joey, what's his favorite thing to do?
His favorite thing to do is play soccer.
Okay, soccer. So what you're going to do is you're going to write out 10 things that Joey really, really likes, 10 things that he really, really dislikes. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have you go to a laptop computer, not an iPad, not an iPhone, certainly not handwriting. And you're going to type out hero plus sign. What are we talking about? And then Joey's going to copy that. That's okay. Professor James Collins, Strategies for Struggling Writers, default writing strategy of copying. Okay. So then what you're going to do is you're going to exchange. Remember, we have hero plus sign. What are we talking about? We're going to swap out hero for Joey. Joey plus sign. What are we talking about? Then we're going to swap out what are we talking about for his favorite things, top on his list, what he likes, which is soccer. Joey plus sign soccer. See how we got there?
I love the analogy. I
Okay.
do see how we got there.
But here I am. Remember, you've been a teacher for years. I'm going to try to fool you by asking you the simplest questions you will ever be asked. And then at the end of this, you're probably going to have an epiphany on what dyslexia really is. Do
Oh
you think I
boy.
can fool you with the simplest
Oh
questions ever?
boy. Here we go.
Here we go. So here's the question. We have to swap out the plus sign for a word to complete the sentence. So we have Joey plus sign soccer. So here's my question. Does Joey like or dislike soccer?
Like
Exact. You did it exactly. Perfect. Now go ahead and create the sentence. What is it?
Joey likes soccer.
Oh, you made the mistake. Do you see what you did wrong?
I did. I do.
What did you do wrong?
I put like in.
Okay, well, let's be very specific. Now that you know what you did wrong, what's the sentence?
Joey dislikes soccer.
No, it's his favorite thing. You said you love soccer. That's not the mistake. Do you see the mistake you made, or do I have you completely confused?
You have me completely confused.
Okay, so this is to everybody. You're about to have an epiphany on what dyslexia really is. When I asked you, does Joey like or dislike soccer, you said it exactly correct, like, because that's what I asked. But when
Yes.
I asked you to put that into the sentence, you did what almost every educated person does. You added an S to make it a proper sentence.
Yes.
Joey doesn't know how to add the S.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I get it
Okay. So
now.
Joey would have said Joey likes soccer. Now, if we were millionaires and we used one of those private schools at $75,000 a year,
Yeah.
they would use an Orton Gillingham multi-sensory structured language approach. What the heck is that? Well, it simply means you're going to see, touch, hear multiple senses to try to get this to work. And yes, if Bill Gates had grandkids with dyslexia, this is exactly what he would be doing, and he'd be writing the check for $75,000 a year just for tuition.
Yeah.
And that's for 4 or 5 years. I'm thinking most people don't have house money to solve this. So what we do is we need a better way. So what we do is I'm going to ask Joey to read what he wrote out loud. Joey like soccer. And I'd be like, Joey, does that sound generally correct? He's going to say, no, I'm going to say fix it. Joey likes soccer. We practice that at least 10 times for 10 things he likes, 10 things he doesn't like until it's correct. It's driven in. So what we're doing here is you see how going through that process, it's a very simple form of word analysis.
Yes.
So what
Yeah.
I've done is I've moved learning this process from the back part of Joey's brain, which has next to nothing going on and gen ed students are going crazy, to the front
Yeah.
part of his brain where he has 2.5 times the neuroactivity.
Yeah.
Give you a little hint. He learns a lot faster that way. All right. Next, we have to do articulation. So we go because, and the reasons are articulation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So give me a very simple reason why Joey likes soccer that's age appropriate.
To kick the
No,
ball.
Joey likes soccer because he likes to kick the ball.
Yes.
Now, do you see how we got a whole mess of misspelled words there?
I do.
Okay. So how do we fix this? We ask Joey to put a period down, and then we tell him if there's a major, and I mean major grammatical mistake, he's got to retype the sentence. Only do that for horrifically bad major grammatical errors. Number 2, if there's a spelling mistake, he's got to retype the entire sentence. And so what's Joey going to do? He's going to say, I'm not going to make that mistake again. And he does. And then he keeps saying that, and he keeps making the mistakes. So he's going to start concentrating harder and harder until around 9 to 13 times, he could be concentrating so incredibly hard that you can actually see sweat coming down his forehead sometimes. And eventually he's not going to make that mistake. You make sure he gets it correct, and then you move on to the second like. And you keep doing that for the 10 likes and 10 dislikes until they're all correct. Then you go on to reason 1 and reason 2, same thing. Reason 1, reason 2, and reason 3. Okay? Now, what
Yeah.
you've done, if this is a 5th grader, you're talking 2 to 6 weeks, typically. If you're talking about a 3rd grader, it's the entire semester. But this is something that parents can do at home. All right. And if the kid's writing randomly placed misspelled words, their writing is normally around kindergarten, beginning 1st grade level. This will increase it to the end of 2nd, beginning 3rd grade level. Also, I don't teach reading. If a student can write it, they can read it. So again, if the student can write it, they can read it. So the reading tends to come behind it by about 6 months. Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. So basically, that is the 3rd step of the model, word analysis followed by articulation. But this comes back to the problem that I had when I went from the super motivated kids to typical students. I couldn't get them to do anything. Motivation of 0. And then I remembered back to my time in law school where it just so happened I was really into it. And I was like, okay. I went and I talked to other successful professors, and they said, just about always, they were top of their class day 1 or soon thereafter because grad school is their speciality. So I said, okay, let's focus on the kid's speciality, their area of extreme interest and ability. My favorite student I like to talk about with this is, I'm sorry, my favorite student that I like to talk to about this is Casey. I want everybody to know I never saw this before, Casey. I will never see this again. It's a one-off, just completely unique. Why? The most motivated kid ever. Casey was fifth grade, 10 years old. She turned 11 over the summertime, reading at the second grade level. So I assigned her The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt, which she wanted to learn about Theodore Roosevelt. It's a book that's 900 pages that won the Pulitzer. It's graded, the grade level is 10th grade to first year college, depending on who you ask. I told Casey, well, here's a modified way to do the reading. Maybe you do this 20 minutes a night a couple of times a week. Not Casey. She did 2 to 3 hours a night, 6 to 7 nights a week. That's just what she did. For 6 months, her parents could afford me for an hour a month. So I worked with her for 15 minutes a week. This was all her. At the end of the 6 months, she could read every word. She was reading at the 10th grade level. So then I decided, let's see what happens if I gave her a book she doesn't like. By far, the most popular book I teach is Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination, because the kids go to Disney World and they want to find out what's the Disney magic. It's 2 universal things. So she's going through that book for a couple of months. Her mom gave permission, and she says, I hate this. And I said, how much has your motivation dropped, Casey? And she said about 50%. When I'm dealing with normal kids, it's about 75 to 80%. So let's recap that. These students like to spend all their time, 6 months, a year, 2 years on one book. The school wants to do a whole bunch of books outside of their speciality. So for most kids, you're down 75, 80% right at the top.
Yeah.
Number 2, the schools generally teach from the general to the specific. For a dyslexic, that's like grabbing fog. There's nothing to grab onto. We can't ask a dyslexic, what effect did Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech have in the 1960 civil rights movement? It's like grabbing fog, nothing there. We need to ask a specific to a general question. What personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech? And this tends to get a lot of people quite confused. Let me show you why this is so critically important. If you ask a dyslexic in their speciality, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed? Key question, but with little to no organization, they're going to say yes. So what we have to do is to force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. So again, it's to force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. So this is, again, during the intervention period to bring the kid to grade level. We focus on their speciality, their area of extreme interest and ability. We focus on teaching them from the specific to the general, and then word analysis followed by articulation. How successful is this? To answer that, I went and I found a volunteer parent. Her name is Kimberly. We met on December 27th of 2024. She's homeschooling her son, Reed. She just spent $700 to have the state of Ohio test her kids. Reed was reading and writing at the beginning 3rd grade level. So if he were in public school for the rest of the school year, they would have expected him to increase by 2 to 2.5 points. That didn't happen. Kimberly spent an hour and a half a week with him. I taught her for half an hour a week. And at the end of that, Reed was increased by 20 points, not 2.5, 20. His reading went from the 11th percentile to the 65th. His writing from the 4th to the 64th. This is the important point. Over the summer, Reed's friends came to him, said, we want you in public school for social reasons, to be with us, to be with us at lunch, in class. If this was January, they would have put him in special ed, away from his friends. Unhappy kid. Now he's in 6th grade. Because Kimberly did what every parent dreams and now he's doing just fine.
Isn't that amazing? That is amazing. Now, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have dyslexia yourself?
Yes, I have the worst case of dyslexia you'll ever see. New York State specifically got this tested by a SUNY distinguished professor in psychology. I have a base reading and writing level at the first grade level that I can jump up to grad level when I turn my system on.
Wow. Jeez. So you know the experience of first grade level, turn the system on, jump up to grad school level.
Right. And this is something I had to develop myself. I was that dyslexic kid and I had to come up with all my own solutions. I just happened to connect it. One of the things that the New York State Senate required, so did the education department, is I had to connect it with current research. That was connecting it to Professor James Collins's book, Strategies for Struggling Writers. I took it from mild dyslexia to severe dyslexia. He approved that in under 2 weeks. And then I connected it to Yale's research in overcoming dyslexia.
Wow. Good for you. Jeez. That's a lot, but good for you. Now, what was your biggest struggle as a kid?
Oh, I couldn't take notes. I had to remember everything. I would go to class and they would be talking about, what started World War II. And then the question would come up on a test or quiz weeks or months later. And I had to look back, oh, this is what the professor said at class. And I would just write it out what they said.
Yeah.
And they thought that was freaky because how did I remember something that they said, 2 months ago? And I said, well, I don't have other options. I can't write this out.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
AI is changing the game of business. Will you be on the winning team? I'm Jordan Wilson, the host of the Everyday AI podcast, and your coach to help you learn the X's and O's of AI. Artificial intelligence isn't just a new player in the game, it's a new sport altogether. So if you don't quickly put AI into play, your competitors will run up the score. I've spent my whole life building winning teams, from coaching basketball to working with big players like Nike and Jordan Brand. My next move? Helping you win with Everyday AI. Listen wherever you get your podcasts or on everydayaipodcast.com. Let's tap into AI together and put points on the board.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. So as we wrap this interview up, I know you have a ton of questions for me.
Well, as far as I'm just happy that as a teacher, did this help you understand dyslexia any better?
Yes. This help help me understand dyslexia. And I hope it help my audience understand dyslexia.
Well, the main thing that I wanted to get across to you is remember when I asked, does this Joey like or dislike, soccer?
Yeah.
And when you add, I was impressed that you actually answered it correctly, because most people
Yeah.
don't do that. They add the yes, but when you put it into a sentence, you are so trained to do it correctly, to do it properly, you automatically added the yes.
Yeah.
But that's the problem Joey has. So the what I gave you there, does it sound generally correct? That's how we get the grammar to autocorrect. Because when I did my original program, remember, I'm dealing with the most advanced kids there are. Susan Ford spent very little time on spelling and grammar. It auto-corrected from a mess to the clean at graduate level. So in the other one, having them retype it until it's correct, okay, and having them just keep doing that until they eventually get it right. When they're thinking, the more they get it wrong, they say, I'm not going to make that mistake, and they make the mistake, the more that they focus and hyper concentrate, that's where that magic happens. So now you don't have to be stuck for years trying to do spelling and grammar. Now, does it work perfectly? No. It's going to get you to the point where a gen ed teacher can start to do their job. How do you permanently fix it? you're not going to like this solution, but this is the best one I found. You go to Amazon, you find the 10 or 20 most common grammatical mistake that college students make, something like that. And then you spend literally, you tell a typical kid 2 to 3 times, they get the rule. Dyslexic, it's 50, 100, 200 times. And then you slowly go through that list over a couple of years. And then typically what I find is that'll get them to basically to a B level in college, somewhere usually 2.5 to 3.6, usually around a 3.0. And I tell parents, you're going to have to be happy with that.
Wow. That is amazing. And that was amazing because, yeah, dyslexia is one of those hard disabilities. A physical disability is a hard disability, but I can't imagine I think my disability is hard, but I can't imagine having dyslexia and screwing up writing, screwing up the English language.
Right. But remember, I just had Kimberly did this in a little under 6 months at home. She did this faster than the dyslexic private schools. And if you'd like to learn more how to do that, it's simply just go to dyslexiaclasses.com. That's with an S, dyslexiaclasses.com. There's a button there that says download free guide. Just answer a few questions. You'll get a document that says the 3 reasons your child's having trouble in school due to dyslexia. And then the most important thing is actually go and click on the link to actually set up a 30-minute appointment so I can speak with you and your child, so I can find out what your kid's speciality is and find their book and audiobook. I've tried writing how to do this. I can't do it. I got to do this with the kid exactly in order to make this work. So just go ahead and do that. It doesn't cost you anything, and you will leave knowing what book your child should be using to overcome the reading and writing issues.
Jeez. Wow. Amazing. Amazing, Mr. Russell. Amazing that you have done all this. And I hope you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode. I certainly did. I learned a lot. And I hope that you guys go to Russell's site and support his work and support your child in their educational journey, because if you don't know anything, you might as well start somewhere. And when it comes to dyslexia, Russell is one of the experts out there. So I hope you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode. I certainly did. I learned a lot. And so, where can people find you, Russell, if they wanted to find you?
Best thing to do is, again, just go to Dyslexia Classes, plural. That's dyslexiaclasses.com. There's a button there that says download free guide. Click on it, answer the 3 questions that we ask, get your downloaded guide, but most importantly, go and set up the appointment with me online so we can have a video conference. I can walk your child, I can answer them a few questions, find their speciality, and walk them through and say, is this really how you want to overcome your reading and writing concerns? And the vast majority of the time, it's yes. And there's no cost to that.
Wow. So I hope you guys go to Russell's website if you think your child has dyslexia. Now, could a doctor diagnose dyslexia?
Well, there are a few MDs that know about it. Typically, it's psychologists. And if you're in New York State and you think your kid has dyslexia, go to your pediatrician, have with notes from your teacher, your kid's teacher, and have them submit it to the insurance company, because in New York, your insurance companies are supposed to pay $5,000 towards the neuropsych. Anything over that, it's on you, but you should be able to find that, and that'll give you the best possible information about where your kid is. But just understand what that is. It's a PhD psychologist with a lot of additional training, and it's like 2 full days of testing, and then they got to write it up. You're basically hiring them for most of the week, but that'll tell you exactly what's going on with your child.
Wow.
If not, if you're not in New York, you don't want to spend the $5,000, set up a time to speak with me through that link I told you about. I ask 2 questions, and I can get you information that says if your kid's ADD, ADHD, or mildly dyslexic, or severely dyslexic. Or if they're severely dyslexic and highly intelligent and motivated, there's one more question, and it becomes very clear. The kids are like, how did you know that about me? So I reduce and that general idea tells you how your kids should be educated to get them to grade level and beyond.
Wow. So I hope you guys really take to heart what Russell's saying. And I appreciate Russell's time, and I appreciate you guys' time and listening. And as I said, I hope you take time to understand what Russell's trying to teach here. And we'll have Russell's information in the show notes. I'll put Russell's information in the show notes. And as I said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you, you guys. And I hope you will tune in next time. Thanks to you guys. Bye, you guys.